Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on tonight's episode, we break down our July All-Stars in the Orioles farm system. If you follow us over our Substack, oriolesontheverge.substack.com, you likely saw Nick's piece earlier this week with the July All-Prospect team. We've been doing one at the end of each month this year. Nick has been writing them up, and then to some extent we've been talking about them on air, and this week we're going to give it a full-length episode. And Nick, I will start with you here because I think this really kind of captures what makes July so different. In the last few months, you have noted how many times a player has appeared on an all-star team this season. So there are some guys appearing on their third or fourth teams, but we also have several players this time around that are appearing on this list for the first time.
Yeah, and some interesting pitchers. Luis De Leon has really strong month, the end of promotion that I'm sure we can talk about here. His first shot at this, Jerron Watts-Brown had a pretty strong month and another promotion, some good and some bad since he's got 2 outings in AAA since being promoted. But for his first appearance, Tyson Neighbors back ? He's had a good run since getting off the IL due to injury, or I don't know, whatever we're gonna call that whole situation he had. But a lot of relievers: Chandler Marsh, Joe Glassie, RIP. We can just go ahead and cross his name off this one since he's with the Nationals now. Teddy Sharkey, another name off the IL. He is back as well. So Joe Glassie leaves, Teddy Sharkey arrives. But yeah, it was the studs are still here, and we've got some new interesting names to look at. Guys who are kind of a little bit under the radar, I think, having some pretty solid seasons. So,
yeah, and let's start on the position players side of things. Colin Tuft gets his first nod behind the plate, and then going around the infield, Victor Figueroa at first, Aaron Estrada at second, Brandon Butterworth at third, Vahivo Aloy at shortstop, and then in the outfield we have Jaden Loray, who has had multiple appearances. In fact, this is his second, but with the way he's played this year, we can slot him in the infield or the outfield. We put him in the outfield this time around. RJ Austin, who has battled some injuries at Frederick but generally been productive when on the field this season, is also in the outfield alongside Cam Lee. And then Damone Newell gets a nod at DH. This is his second appearance on an all-prospect team this season. It's worth noting that Newell recently got the bump up to Delmarva when the FCL season concluded. So, Nick, just to go back to you here, what are your thoughts on this position player group?
I'm pulling up Victor Figueroa real quick to check his stuff. Victor Figueroa had an awesome first week there in Delmarva. 6 games. He hit .333. 136 WRC plus. Had, couple doubles? 1 double, 1 triple, and a home run. Yes, Victor Figueroa had himself a triple. That was fun to see. But if Fangraphs would just stop shoving ads down my throat real quick. I'm poor. I'm on the free version. 1 week sample size. So look, I doubt Altoona. I think the Bay Sox played Altoona last week. I doubt Altoona had a book on Victor Figueroa coming up to AA. So it's give the rest of the league time to adjust and figure out how to get Victor Figueroa out. But in the meantime, he took advantage of that first week, and again, 6-game sample doesn't mean too much right now. Let's wait another month. Let's wait 2 months and then have this conversation. But he had a 60% contact rate in high A. And we talked about the power to all fields is very impressive. That is a legitimate tool there. It is a high-powered plus tool. But a 60% contact rate and a near 20% swinging strike rate is rough. But in his first week in AA, he's running a 73% contact rate. And he's slashed the swinging strike rate down to sub 15%. So I think that contact rate so far, that's a viable range for him, I think. So good to see that. Again, it's only 1 week, but still. I think we're going to dive into Aaron Estrada a little bit more later on, but that bat is scorching hot. He's not walking, but honestly, right now, I'll take it. I think that's partially maybe even on purpose. There's a plan in place in his hitting development. So I would assume the Orioles probably aren't even that concerned right now. Of course, you want to see him walking a little bit more. It'd be fun to see him steal some more bases because we know he can do that in the past, but he's hitting. First it was the power, and now you're seeing this average. You're seeing the defense. He is really kind of confirmed he is a second base prospect in this organization, which is a step forward from last year as this utility type guy. So that's really good to see. And Vahiva Aloy is just, he was one good game in Double A so far on the week, but he's in Double A now, and I'm excited to see what he can do over this next week. But entering Double A, he had one of the hottest months really that I think any hitting prospect down the farm has had this whole season. So this is a fun group. Guys taking real steps forward so far as we close out the year.
Yeah, this is an important part of the schedule every year. I feel like I remember Dylan Beavers had some really scorching Julys to like catapult himself a couple years. Like it's a grind, and this is the dead middle of the season. So if you're going to be hot, it's a good time to be hot. Yeah, Victor Figueroa, it's awesome to see that continue. Hopefully, the swing and miss can cut it down a little bit at a time, make some more contact, because if he makes contact, he does damage. So the more contact, the better. Aaron Estrada, yeah, I do think that the walk thing has got to be at least somewhat intentional, because 2022, 17% walk rate, 2023, 18.5% walk rate, 2024, 8.2, last year, 9.9, this year, 5.1. So, and he was in Double A for a long time last year too. So I wonder if it's kind of by design, but either way, I think he's just continued to improve throughout the year. And yeah, I love the guy. So I'm glad they didn't trade him today. Yeah, everything's normal, by the way. We didn't just talk about one of the craziest trade deadlines in Orioles history or anything 10 minutes ago. But even looking at this, like Aloy, Estrada, Butterworth, like I'm thinking, if the Orioles really want to retool and shift the core a little bit, do they trade Jackson Holiday this offseason and kind of use Blaze, Westberg, Mayo at second and third base until like that's what today has done to me. But anyway, back to the prospects. Aloy looks great. I think he's going to be a really, really solid major league player in a year or two. Like shortstop, third base, if Gunner's there, whatever he's going to do, I think he's going to be a really productive major league infielder. And Colin Toft, shout out to him. He's had a really under the radar season, like almost making me think, does he deserve a little more consideration for my top 50? Definitely not after the draft and this trade deadline, but like he's having a really solid offensive year, and good for him.
The guy that I just want to recognize here is R.J. Austin, because unfortunately with the injuries, it feels like up to this point he has not really had a sustained run of success that would put him on this list, and not to mention that generally there's been some tough decisions in the outfield. I know Nick can attest month over month, but 21 games in July, he hit .312 with 4 doubles, 2 home runs, 2 triples, and 139 WRC plus. Also went 12 for 15 in stolen base attempts. And I think that kind of speaks to the season that Austin has had this year. If you look at his numbers, when he has been on the field this season, interesting combination of power and speed, 7 homers, a 113 WRC plus, to go with 31 steals and 37 attempts. And for a guy that had some hit tool concerns coming into the farm system, running up a 272 average with just a 17% strikeout rate and 10% walk rate this year. Austin has kind of bounced off and on our top 50, and I don't know he's going to make the update next week because of the influx between the trade deadline and the draft, but there's a fun utility profile to dream on here with Austin.
Yeah, someone asked me about him because I think they were just box score scouting and saw his line and was like, what about this guy? And I'm like, I really like him. Like, even if he never makes it as a major leaguer, like regular, like this is the perfect organizational depth that you want. Like he does everything right, the little things. He could steal bases. He plays great defense all over the place. He's going to hit. Like, I actually think there's a chance he has a utility role or at least a bench role in his future in the majors. But man, just seems like you couldn't ask for more from a guy that was picked where he was. Like the Orioles have struggled with, was he a third round pick? Like they have struggled with that third round pick at times. And I think they crushed it with this one. Also, I'd like to shout out Jaden LeRae, just if we're talking about these outfielders, because my God, that home run he hit on July 31st was pretty impressive. And Oyster Analytics got their attention again on that one. Jaden LeRae just continuing to prove to me that he's a dude, and he might actually climb even with the influx of talent on my personal list.
That home run truly was like when people describe somebody's swing as like chopping down a tree. That's what that swing felt like. He went up there with his axe and just chopped at that ball, but he drove it to deep left field. There's that poolside power for you. I know he hasn't done it much this year, but when he does connect for those poolside home runs, like those are some loud shots. And again, still a teenager. And I know Baseball America actually just put out their top 20 prospect list in the FCL, and they were like, this guy has all the tools to be a quote pest at the top of a lineup. They mean a major league lineup. So yeah, Jaden LeRae is catching the attention of a lot of people nationally right now.
Shift over the pitching staff now, and there's an interesting mix of names here. If you go through our rotation for the month of July, Nestor Herman makes his second appearance on the monthly All-Star team. He's followed by Luis De Leon, who is making his first appearance on a team this year, and that's because of a truly dominant month of July in which he posted a 0.73 ERA with a 28-7 strikeout to walk ratio across 24 and 2/3 innings pitched. That allowed him to earn a promotion up to AAA Norfolk. He's followed by Joseph Giroux, who has appeared on every monthly All-Star team this season. Caden Hunter has appeared on 3 out of 4 thus far. And Jerron Watts-Brown, who, as Nick mentioned at the top of the show, is making his first appearance on an All-Star team this year. And I kind of like this group of pitchers. We're able to shout out Watts-Brown, who, as I just noted, has not appeared on monthly All-Star team this year. De Leon, who I think over the course of the season has been much better than his stat line has indicated. And then in guys with like Anderson, Herman, and Giroux, who have all been consistently among the best performers in the farm system among starting pitchers this year.
Yeah, love our pitching, and this just highlights it because Luis De Leon, man, he just slow starter. Maybe that's just the way it's going to be. Like he caught fire again this July and looked fantastic. I thought he looked really good in his AAA debut as well. I know that wasn't technically July, maybe, but after a slow start, Silas Ardway went out there and gave him a little pep talk, and I thought he was fantastic following that, settling down a little bit and getting Ks, getting ground balls. Like even some of the runs he gave up, Major League defense that's maybe not the Orioles probably makes those plays and gets him even further into that game with less runs. Herman is just continuing to improve, I feel like, every month. I don't know if that checks out, but it just feels like it. And seems like he's really close, him and newly reacquired Michael Ferret, angling for that Tuesday start, which has already happened when you're listening to this on podcast. So that's weird. Joseph Giroux, Caden Hunter have been awesome all year. And of course, Jerron Watts-Brown. As soon as I knock him off my top 50, call him a pure relief prospect, he goes out and has probably the best month he's ever had since joining the Orioles organization. So I might have to rethink my opinion there.
Yeah, looking in just the raw stuff. I know Watts-Brown, his first outing, and yeah, I don't know if these technically fell in July or not. I think the first outing did. I don't know if the second outing did. But regardless, he dominated in AA to earn that promotion. And then that first start in AAA, he went through like 4 2/3 scoreless. He looked really, really good. And then it was 2 outs in the 9th inning, and he couldn't finish the job. I think it was like double walk or walk then double. And he had back-to-back wild pitches, I believe. He really struggled. And then, I think it was Espada or some other tied reliever came in, allowed one of the runs to score. So he got charged for a second run there. But it was really good up to that point. I know a second outing, it was saying like 3 2/3 or 4 innings. I think 1 hit, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. But he walked 5. So like there's good and there's bad. But the pitch data was, I think, more impressive than I think any of us thought it was going to look.
It's definitely better than I was expecting to see.
Yeah, I got the TJ stats card here pulled up. It was 2 starts in AAA, so he's averaging 94, 17 plus inches of induced vertical break, 7 feet of extension, 108 stuff plus. Slider was 104 stuff plus. Curveball average, changeup 103 stuff plus, a little bit above average as well. But overall, 106 stuff plus. Like it comes down to the walks, and we talked about that again. Not to dismiss all the walks that he put up in those first couple of starts there in Norfolk. He's got to do a better job with that, but still, it's a new strike zone, it's new baseball. So let's see how this kind of settles out over the last 2 months of the year for him. But good impression was the first impression was pretty good for Wes Brown in AAA.
Go over the bullpen now, and Nick touched on this earlier in the episode, but we've got some possible comeback appearances here in this mix. You have Tyson Neighbors, who has struggled, also had an IL stint this year. He turned in a really good month of July. Chandler Marsh, who has not appeared on a team thus far this year, making his first appearance. And then you have Teddy Sharkey, 2023 draft pick, 7th round out of Coastal Carolina, basically came into the farm system at that time as the best pure relief prospect. And now, granted, the approach to pitching development was a little bit different at that point, so you didn't have a lot of pure relief prospects. But we had Joe Doyle on shortly after that draft, and Joe was very high on him, and a lot of national reports back that up. Unfortunately, since then, he has suffered a lot of injuries, but Nick, as you mentioned here, he's kind of finding a gear now that he's healthy and back on the mound, and maybe that turns into an Arizona Fall League stint.
Yeah, I just Neighbors has looked so much better. When he started the year, that was just a complete disaster. And it was not just the play on the field, it was the body language, it was all of it for Neighbors. And he's got 7 or 8, I lost the numbers there, 8 appearances last month. He's allowed 1 earned run. He's struck out 35% of batters faced. Now, he has walked a couple of guys, but 3 of those came in 1 outing. He's got back-to-back outings now with no walks. We know that's an issue for him. If Neighbors continues pitching like this, I think he can be up in AAA pretty soon and kind of right back on track. Just a little bit delayed. I think go back to when we talked about at the beginning of the year. I think this might be one of the first times he's really struggled, and he needed a reset. And I think he got that reset. And both the injured guys, Sharkey, it's really good to see him back as well. And I'm looking to see if Sharkey's got some FCL data there real quick. There's 96. He actually has no extension. That's shocking. And some decent stuff there from Sharkey, but Sharkey looks good as well coming back. He's got his first appearance in high A's, 2 scoreless innings. He's striking out guys. He's got that beautiful breaking ball. Both Sharkey and Neighbors, if they can come back and finish this year strong, I think you're injecting 2 pretty strong relief prospects back into the organization, which is going to be a lot of fun going into 2027.
Oh, God. Spoiler. We're not getting a 2027 season. This Joe Glassie guy looks pretty good. I think he's going to come up and be, oh, shoot. No, I mean, Sharkey and Neighbors, those are guys like psychopaths on the mound in the best way possible, just intense. And yeah, if they can get right, and Sharkey, obviously, it's more just injuries than anything else. But if they can finish strong, like you said, maybe AFL for at least one of them, and yeah, reset in the offseason, work on what didn't work and get things straightened out. I think very big up arrows for 2027. I'm going to go out on a limb and say. And Chandler Marsh, yeah, that was he came over with Cam Foster and Anthony Nunez. Was that? No, Ramon Gomez. And I don't know. He came over in one of the trades with the Mets last year. He's been kind of build a character, create a character in MLB The Show, at least for me, not very distinct one way or the other, but the numbers are good. And Todd Kneebe, we've talked about him a lot. I really like him still. Good that they held on to him. They traded a few of these relievers, Nate Barnhart for Rogers, forget his first name. And then you get Rogers in here and you ship him out. Broke my heart. That's enough for me.
It's a long day.
We'll head in now to our last segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridley Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. But if you're not heading out to the game, be sure to head over to Checker Spot to watch the game. Plenty of good beer and good food. Also television, so watch the action. And as an added bonus, they are open 7 days a week. So be sure to head over to Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridley Street in South Baltimore. And now we highlighted recently on an episode a wave of promotions that had happened in the Orioles farm system. But as we touched on at the time, there were some guys that maybe deserved promotions that were left out of that mix. So this gives us an opportunity to shout them out. Are there any players in this group of July All-Stars that should be promoted soon? We each picked one. And I'm going to go ahead and start with Bob because I know that he loves nothing more than to talk about this particular prospect.
Aaron Estrada, my guy. Yeah, I think we've talked about him a lot already on this episode, but just to like put a finer point on things and just how good he's been for a pretty good stretch now. I know if you don't remember, he had a very slow start to the season, and we had a whole episode where not just him, but a couple guys, including Luis De Leon as well, about who we think could bounce back from their slow starts. And we picked Aaron Estrada, and my goodness, has he ever? He's ever since April 28th, he's batting .312 with an .879 OPS, 120 WRC plus, 223 ISO, only a 16% strikeout rate, 4.7% walk rate, but it's working. And I think he had a pretty decent amount of time in AA last year. Obviously, his entire season this year, it's how many at-bats is it total now? 487 at-bats now in AA between last year and this year. So get him over that 500 mark. And I think if not soon, then definitely when AA season ends and there's an extra week or two in AAA, I could see him getting that bump up there, give him the taste of AAA, and then next year he's knocking on the door.
Like it. I'm going to go down to single A, and my pick is going to be Jaden Loray. Just, I know Frederick was the talk of the town. They were the must-see TV every night. And now that lineup it got a little tough. I know last week they swapped out the Ike Irish, RIP. Hope be back next year, stronger than ever. But Aloy gets promoted, Figueroa gets promoted, and they replace Ike Irish, Fahiva Aloy, and Victor Figueroa with three guys from Norfolk, three fringe quad A guys in Norfolk, in case the Orioles needed them to replace some trade guys. But Frederick, kind of a tougher watch as far as the bats go right now. But, they are going to be in the playoff. They made the playoffs, so they're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the year. And maybe we see a guy like Jaden Loray and maybe one or two or more of the draft picks join him. But I think Jaden Loray should be a guy who, even though he's still only 19 years old, he's got a 142 WRC plus through 40 games with Delmarva. So 2 home runs, 8 doubles, a triple, 15% walk rate, just at 8% strikeout rate. Like, it's just absurd numbers. So yeah, I think even stealing bases, about 13 for 15 in stolen base attempts. So like, he's filling up the stat sheet. He's playing 42% above league average as a 19-year-old in single A. I think he plays 3 levels this year as the Nate George path. Hopefully he doesn't continue that Nate George path as far as health-wise, but gets that Nate George path this year, ends the year in high A, and he's already getting that national recognition like I talked about. Baseball America and those analytics guys and many others are taking note of Jaden Loray. And I think next year, especially if he gets that promotion to high A to close out the year, he's going to be like the hot prospect name on the national scene next year. Every national outlet is going to be like, this is the underrated Orioles prospect that nobody's ever talked about, but it's Jaden Loray. He's going to be the breakout guy.
We had
Orioles
it first.
Orioles fans are well aware of who Jaden Loray is, and he's shining this year.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a clean sweep as far as the hitters are concerned. I'm going with Brendan Butterworth for my pick. I think that Butterworth, he had an early season IL stint that cost him a little bit of time, but you look at when he's been on the field this year, he's been one of the most consistent hitters, arguably the most consistent outside of Ethan Anderson in terms of production at the plate for the Bay Sox this year. Coming into this week, he also had, between last year and this year, over 80 games at the AA level. So he'll probably be at over 90 by the end of this week. He's going to be Rule 5 eligible at the end of the 2027 season. Not that you need to be thinking too far ahead, but you kind of want to see him get an extended run in AAA, I think, to figure out how he fits into your plans going forward. So why not let him go up there and have a tune-up this year? And even if they don't make the move right away, I'd like to see them do it the way they've handled some other players in the past, which is that take advantage of the fact that Norfolk's season runs a week or two later, and let him go up there then and play 4 nights a week, each week over the final couple weeks of the season. Just let him get at bats, let him get settled in, and then hit the ground running at AAA next year. Because you look at what he does, good batted ball data. The raw power, which a lot of outlets aren't that high on, has actually been translating in the game power. And even if you think that that's a product of Bowie's ballpark, the bottom line is that the guy can square up on the ball. He can also play all over the diamond. He's played a lot of outfield this year, but he can play in the infield. So continue to kind of develop him on his utility profile. Let the bat continue to progress, and I think you have something here.
I think he's in AAA if he doesn't get hurt already. He would have been up with that wave of promotions. And, yeah, if you like watching Blaze Alexander play, I think you're going to like Brandon Butterworth because he's almost like Blaze Alexander light because he's 5'7", like 170 pounds soaking wet. But he's got a great arm, can play great defense. Not going to hit for a ton of power, but he's going to hit the ball hard. He's going to hit the ball over the field. So, yeah, big fan of Butterworth.
And with that, that does it for this show. We will be back next week, and there will not be as much news going on in the hours leading up to the show. Hopefully, at least if we're going to get that much news, let it be good news. In the meantime, you can check our many social media channels, including YouTube. We are very close to 1,000 subscribers there, so be sure to follow us along. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Twits, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to go to patreon.com and sign up to become a member today. Now, it's worth pointing out that our next Top 50 update is going to be next week. That is going out on the main feed. But if you're a patron, you get a monthly Top 50 update exclusive to you throughout the season, as well as bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, access to patron-exclusive channels in our Discord community, and a whole lot more. So be sure to check that out at patreon.com. For Bob, Phil, and Nick Stevens and Zach Spence, you've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.